Jeb. Merry Jebmas Day, everybody. This day in history, on Jebmas Day, a hero was born. And in honor of that, I'd like to celebrate by ranking every single Office Jebmas episode. This is not a good bit. This is simply not a good bit. Please clap, though. Yeah, I'm gonna be ranking every Office Christmas episode. Here we go. So, I think every single episode of The Office is either from incredible to, like, pretty good. I mean, the only really bad ones are the ones with Will Ferrell. I was fucking clapping when that fucking basketball hoop landed on Will Ferrell. No, I'm just kidding. I love Will Ferrell. That dude was great in Elf. Alright, let's get into this. And dude, by far the worst one is not even a contest. It's Christmas Wishes from Season 8. Season 8 as a whole, just in general, is not that great. Like, Ed Helms just tries so desperately to make this show good. But without Steve Carell there's like a huge piece missing. And it also doesn't help that the love triangle between Andy, Aaron, and Andy's new girlfriend is just completely not compelling in the slightest. It's by far the worst love triangle in this show. And there are a lot of bad love triangles in this show, but this one's by far the worst. I already completely forgot Andy Bernard's girlfriend. I should probably Google it. I'm not gonna. But she's such a forgettable character. That's not a knock on the actress. I think she does the best with what she's given, but her entire purpose is just to be a roadblock for Andy and Aaron. Okay, so I very much do not like that subplot at all. But the B plot is actually incredible and just genuinely super funny. So in the B plot of this episode, Andy tells Jim and Dwight that if either of them pull a prank on each other, then they're gonna lose their Christmas bonus and it'll be given to the other person. So this leads to just Jim and Dwight framing each other for pranks, and it's just incredibly funny. So Dwight brings a porcupine to the office, and probably my favorite joke in the entire season is when Dwight vandalizes his own car and writes Jim is awesome. Dude, if the A plot was anywhere as good as this B plot, I'd honestly put this episode as a B tier. But the A plot of this episode completely brings down this whole episode, which sucks because this B plot is genuinely sincerely funny. For me, Dwight Christmas is C tier. This is an inverse of Christmas Wishes where I thought the A plot was actually really solid, but the B plot, I wish it was replaced with something a little bit more interesting. So basically in the A plot of this episode, Dwight, through because of Jim and Pam and the party planning committee, is able to throw a Pennsylvania Dutch Christmas party. Basically has Dwight dressed up as this Santa type character named Belschnickel. This is a really funny and clever episode for me, and it's really nice to see another episode basically dedicated to Jim and Dwight's growing friendship. I mean, we've seen this a lot in Season 8 with the Lotto episode, the Florida episode where they try to get rid of Kathy, and the Florida episode where Jim tries to save Dwight's job. And this is another really solid Jim and Dwight friendship-centered episode, and I don't think we got enough of these in Season 9 until AARM, which is a fantastic episode. This is a really another solid episode, and I think Jim, Dwight, and Pam really carried Season 8 and Season 9 after Michael left. The B-plot of this episode is really lame, I'm gonna be honest. It's another love triangle between Andy and Aaron, but this time it's with P, and Andy is the villain for whatever reason. I don't know, man. I think Andy this entire season felt out of character. Andy is the type of person who I feel like would be more helicopter-y in a relationship. That's kind of where the humor comes in. He doesn't seem like a type of character who would leave his girlfriend on a boat trip for like 6 months. Andy's not even in this episode, but his influence is definitely left with that email, and I just kind of wish they got rid of this whole subplot, if I'm being honest. Fucking Christmas is B tier. For me, this is a really middle-of-the-road episode where none of the subplots are that bad, but they're also not really that great. I don't know, maybe it's because it doesn't give me the same Christmas vibes as the other episodes do, but I didn't really feel it. I won't lie, there's incredibly funny stuff in this episode with Michael and Meredith's dynamic, and it's actually really nice to see an episode dedicated to Meredith because we don't get enough of those. But that subplot doesn't truly get funny until Michael actually brings Meredith to the rehabilitation center. That's when this episode turns into something really, really funny. That scene is so fucking priceless. The Phyllis Angela stuff wasn't that interesting either for me until the last scene where Phyllis reveals that Angela's having an affair with Dwight. And then Dwight gives possibly the best reaction where he just goes, "Well, don't look so surprised." Perfect. I thought it would be kind of cathartic to see Angela getting a taste of her own medicine. But this episode, along with a lot of other episodes, just makes Phyllis seem so unlikable. I will say that the Dwight Princess Unicorn subplot is funny all the way through, and it's still just as relevant now as it was back then because of the PS5 launch. Secret Santa is an easy A tier, and the fact that this is in 4th place shows just how fantastic these Office episodes really are. But before I talk about the A plot, let's talk about the B plot real quick because it focuses around Andy and Aaron. Again, the B plot revolves around Andy gifting Aaron the 12 Days of Christmas, and I know before I talked about how annoyed I got with the Andy and Aaron love triangle, but this is before all the love triangle stuff, and this is when I actually found Andy and Aaron's relationship pretty endearing. The final scene where Andy gifts Aaron the 12 drummers is just a really nice and wholesome scene. However, dude, this fucking A plot is incredible. Michael getting upset because Phyllis was Santa this year at the Christmas party is fucking hilarious, and when Michael tries to roast everybody dressed as Jesus Christ is probably peak Office. Those scenes are incredible. I think this episode could have delved into Michael's character in a more meaningful way that the other episodes just accomplished more effectively, but it's by far the funniest episode. It just is not the most meaningful or emotional episode, which is kind of what I love about The Office, is that these Office episodes are not just about comedy, but they're about the actual characters as well. Secret Santa for me is a very easy S tier. I actually meant to say Classy Christmas. I didn't mean Secret Santa. Alright? I'm just very dumb. I genuinely really love Michael and Holly's relationship. It's probably my second favorite in the whole show, minus Jim and Pam's. And while yes, this is another love triangle, but I feel like this love triangle is way more meaningful than the Aaron and Andy stuff. This love triangle feels like it genuinely develops Michael into a more mature person. Dude, that scene where AJ shows up into the office and Michael pretends like nothing happens is such a great scene. It just shows how much Michael genuinely cares about Holly. He would never do that type of shit in season 3. And dude, the subplot with Jim and Dwight is fantastic. I know I've said this a lot, that the subplots with Jim and Dwight are always great, but this one is especially fantastic. Usually the formula with The Office is that Jim always is able to prank Dwight, but this flips it on its head and Dwight is finally victorious for once. And that final scene, man, where Dwight is on top of the roof just looking menacingly at Jim is just so cinematic. It's just so funny. While this episode technically might have more flaws in my eyes than Secret Santa because of that love triangle stuff, I feel like I'm just genuinely really emotionally invested in Michael and Holly's relationship. So having a whole episode dedicated to it made me like it a whole lot more. Bethany Christmas came at a time where every Office episode was between season 2 and all the way to 4 wasn't certified fucking banger. Dude, honestly, all of season 2 through 4 are an S tier episode on their own, so of course Bethany Christmas is an S tier episode. I love this episode so much. In this episode, it delves into how Michael would react to a breakup with Carol. I think that opening where Michael sends Carol a Christmas card with her photoshopped into it. I meant to say him. It doesn't make any sense. Why would he photoshop her into a photo she's already in? And it is such a Michael-esque thing to do. I think we get to see great development between Michael and Jim in this episode. I really liked how in this episode it kind of parallels Michael to Jim, in which Michael dates the one waitress but from Benihana's as a rebound girlfriend, and it kind of parallels how Jim is dating Karen as a rebound. And I like his realization at the end when he talks to Michael about that. It's just a great, fantastic scene. I've always liked how this show has kind of shown that Michael is sort of a cautionary tale of what Jim could be if he stays at Dunder Mifflin and he always plays everything safe. It's just another great moment in that show. I love how Dwight is kind of playing third wheel with Michael and Andy in this episode, that he wants some amount of respect and leadership. And this also goes into the B plot with Angela, Karen, Pam, and the party planning committee. I like how they teamed up Pam with Karen in this episode because it further expands on Karen's character and shows how completely different she is from Roy. While Roy is shown to be just awful and terrible all the way through, Karen is an actual likable person. So while you're still rooting for Jim to get with Pam, you're also kind of conflicted because Karen's a genuinely good person who doesn't deserve to be in the middle of this Jim and Pam's will they won't they relationship. This is just a really good episode that I love a lot. Christmas Party is first place, and there was never a doubt in my head on whether or not this would be first place. I knew from the beginning that this was easily the best Office Christmas episode. There is no other episode out of all these episodes that gets me into the Christmas spirit more than this episode. Season 2 is by far my favorite season because I feel like it balances the absurdity that later seasons would have with the more realistic tone that the first season had just perfectly, man. This episode is by far more grounded than the other Christmas episodes. You won't be seeing Dwight Schrute whipping anybody or Michael Scott dressed up like Jesus roasting everybody, but I feel like that's kind of a part of the charm of this episode. It's definitely the most simplest in its storytelling. Both subplots of Jim and Pam and Michael both relate back to Michael just destroying the Secret Santa gift exchange at the party by replacing it with Yankee Swap, and by also going over the $20 limit by bringing in a video iPod, which back then was $400. Whoever had that idea is a fucking genius, because that is such a great idea for an episode. And of course, that teapot subplot with Jim and Pam is so well written. I've said this before, but Jim and Pam are definitely the heart of the show, and I feel like it's a great balance to Michael Scott just wreaking havoc on the Christmas party by ruining the Secret Santa gift exchange. And of course, it's beautiful seeing Phyllis just being fucking destroyed. Cause she's the worst, right? She's easily the worst character. Phyllis is a bitch.
Close your mouth, sweetie. You look like a trout.
Anyways, that was basically my ranking for every Office Christmas episode. This was really fun to do, and if you'd like to see anything like this, then subscribe. Thanks for watching. Bye.